Hey everybody, how you doing? Three keys to the match presented by Volkswagen. I'm Anthony Urciuoli, your Forge FC digital host. Forge on the road, taking on Cavalry FC. Wednesday night kickoff as at 9 o'clock at Spruce Meadows. Highly anticipated match. They haven't played in a while. Last time they did, it was a 2-2 draw at Tim Hortons Field early in the year. Forge has not beaten Calvary in over a year. Of course, they're coming off back-to-back Canadian Premier League titles as Forge. Both of those wins came against Cavalry. So a rivalry has been built. If you ask Forge fans who their biggest rivals are, they might say York. Pacific creeping up a bit, but it's Calvary. Ask Calvary fans, which we actually, and I highly recommend, you go back and listen to our match day preview between Forge and Calvary. It's out there now, wherever you get your podcasts. It's also on YouTube and the Forge FC social channels. Todd Saloff, who is a beat reporter for Cavalry FC, works for the Calgary Sun and Calgary Herald. And he put it simply, Forge is hated around Calgary among soccer fans. So this is a rivalry. Forge players, coaches might not agree. In fact, Kyle Bekker, the Forge captain, spoke before the match. Here's what he had to say about the rivalry with Calvary.
I don't really know if there's too much of a rivalry. Obviously, this is our first time coming back here since winning that first championship, which is nice. We have good memories here. They're a tough team to play. They bring something different than I think a few of the other teams, and we know tomorrow's a massive game. It's a massive 3 points, so we're looking forward to the challenge. We're looking forward to the fight that it's always a competitive game against us. So it's a big 90 minutes coming up.
All right, well, rivalry or not, huge matchup, implications in the table. And, quite frankly, Calvary has been struggling as of late. They've lost 2 in a row after going on that 11-game unbeaten streak. It looked like they were kind of running away with things, even though it was early in the year. They've dropped down to third place. Forge 2 points behind them with 2 games in hand. And Forge control their own fate overall because they've played less matches than everybody else. They're 3 points out of first place. And they have at least 2 games, in some instances, 3 games in hand. So Forge FC wants this one, and Calvary, of course, wants this one, trying to right the ship there. And what better way to do it if you're Calvary than against Forge? But for Forge FC, here are the 3 keys to the match. Confidence crush. Key number 1. Yes, Calvary will be fired up in this match. However, when you've lost a couple of matches, when you've dropped in the standings, when you essentially, in a sense, you control your own destiny. I guess if they beat all the teams ahead of them, they'd be in pretty good spot. But all of a sudden, things not as looking as good for Calvary. If you're Forge, you need to crush that confidence as soon as possible. That means early goals. And the crowd's going to be hot. We know they're going to be hot. And we know they're going to be extra hot because it's Forge there. And that hometown crowd is great when they're that heated, that fired up. It's great when you're winning and when things are going well. It works against you when you're not. You start getting impatient. You start forcing things. You start abandoning your game plan. And that's when Forge is in a great spot. So get up early. Get that first goal. Get Calvary a little shaky. They haven't quite been in form. And remind them that they're not quite in form by getting that early goal. Key number 2 for Forge FC. Play with possession. Sounds simple. We know Forge FC likes to possess the ball. A big reason why they're so good defensively is that they just always have the ball. Bobby says it all the time. Head coach, technical director, Forge FC, Bobby Smyrniotis. Best defense is ball control. And Forge can do it. In fact, that 2-2 draw that Forge and Calvary played to early in the year. Now, granted, Forge was at home and they were down, so Calvary may have sat back a little in the second half. Forge had 60% of the possession. Now, these are, no matter how you look at it, I guess not in the standings, but when you look at everything statistically, expected goals against, all of those advanced stats, these are the top 2 clubs in the Canadian Premier League. But when it comes to that style of play, when it comes to the possession game, when it comes to quick passing, up tempo, runs off the ball, a lot of movement. Tactical demand is always high with Forge, and the players will be the first to tell you that. Bobby will be the first to tell you that. Playing with possession. We talked about the first key, that confidence crush, quiet the crowd, get Calvary frustrated. There's nothing more frustrating as a fan, and you all know this, when the opposing club is hanging on to the ball and you cannot get possession. And when you do, you're so happy to get possession, and it feels so fleeting that it messes with your head a bit. You feel like you have to do more, because if we're not going to get the ball as much as we want, we got to make sure we get the most out of opportunities, and it just creates this kind of panic. Play with possession, Forge FC doing what they normally do, but on the road, it is especially effective to hang on to the ball, make Calvary chase. Key number 3 for Forge FC. This is all, you're gonna see connections here. Key number 3, Spruce Meadows swagger. Calvary's at home. They have more points than Forge. For a while there, it looked like they were going to be the team to beat this season until they struggled recently when they went on that 11-game unbeaten streak. You're Forge FC. You've beaten Calvary twice now in the finals. The league's only 3 seasons old. You've beaten them twice in the finals. I mentioned stats. I don't know if you can hear me flipping pages here. I got a lot, especially the advanced kind. In every metric we look at, we can start here. Forge FC, best expected goals against. Calvary number 2, by the way. Expected goals, Forge number 1, Calvary 3. Forge first in the league in successful tackles, Calvary last. Touches in the opponent's box, Forge first, Calvary second. These are also the two best teams in expected goals in open play, so not on set pieces or penalties. Forge 1, Calvary 2. Forge FC is the better club. Go in there with that swagger, with your chest up and that confidence. We're Forge. What did the great Ric Flair always say? To be the man, you got to beat the man. And although Forge hasn't beaten Calvary in a little over a year, when it comes to the big moments, the big games, it has been Forge FC coming out on top. And there's no reason to go in there timid or worried about playing a quality Calvary team. It's reminding yourself that we're Forge, we're the better club, we are the top team in the league by almost every single metric. The standings might not show it right now, but we are Forge FC. Go in there with that swagger. That is your third key. That's all 3 of your keys. And the man who knows more than all of us, Bobby Smyrniotis, he spoke before the match. Here's what he had to say about his opponent.
Yeah, so it's the first time I hear we're so disliked in this area. It's been a while since we've been here. Our last game here was in 2019. At the end of that season, it was a good day for us. But yeah, it's not something that's on my mind or the players' minds in any way.
Okay, and just going into this match now, schedule's getting a little tighter, less time for training and whatnot. I mean, does it have an impact? All those days you did have time to train, does it kind of make up for these short weeks?
Yeah, I think it prepares you for it, a little bit. In having those extended periods, you can just not only work on the football, but make sure that the fitness and the freshness is there in the players so that they're able to combat these periods now that it's 4 games in succession, with 3 days in between. But it's something we've done in the past, and we keep at it. This game comes off of one we've played on the weekend. We got another one coming up in the weekend right after this. So we just take everything in stride. This is game number 15 of the season, just past the midway point for us. Everything is going well, and we got to go in and put in a good performance tomorrow night.
And obviously, you mentioned you're in Calgary now. You're off to Ottawa on the weekend. I know you guys try not to look at the table too much during the season, but just with the way that these kind of 4 teams at the top are so close and places are swapping back and forth, how important is it to get results in these games against the teams you're going to be going right up against at the end of the season?
Yeah, there's 2 ways of looking at it. One, it's okay, it gives a little bit more confidence in being able to win these games. but there's always a magic number. We're playing in a season that has playoffs, and there's a magic number. And I think, we're going to compete, obviously, every game, go after win everything that we can, but we know where we have to be, and we're always calm in that respect. One thing we've seen, I think in the last 2 weeks, you've probably seen, 1 week it's one guy at the top, 3 days later it's another guy. It's going to be changing. I think it's a normal rotation of what we're seeing in the game. It's very competitive games, a lot of differing styles of play, which I think is very good. I think that keeps on moving. So to be honest, as in the past, I don't pay a lot of attention to the standings, but more about where we are on our account. Right now, we're in a good place. Yeah, obviously, over this next week or so, if we can keep on adding to that, I think it makes things better as you go into the final stretch of the season.
All right, Bobby's ready. The boys are ready. You should be too. Don't forget to check back, whether it's on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and on these social media channels, because we will have a match in review following Forge FC, Calvary FC. It goes down Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Enjoy.
We are the Forge, the mighty, mighty Forge. You just don't think you understand.
Forge FC is ready, and now you are too. This has been 3 Keys to the Match on the Forge Audio Network. Keep up to date on your Forge FC by subscribing to the Forge Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.